Hello, everyone, and welcome. We are very excited to have all of you joining us this evening from around the United States, Canada, and around the world. My name is Laurabeth Goldsmith, and I'm here tonight with Sheila, and we are so excited to be running a session for you all on how Model UN and extracurriculars can really help students set themselves apart in the college admissions process. So we're really excited to be able to share the ins and outs of this process with all of you and to answer many of your questions this evening. And before we get started, I would just love to get an idea of who we have here with us this evening. So if you don't mind, please feel free to share in the chat your name if you're a student, a parent, or a teacher, and also what you're hoping to get out of the session today so we can get a better idea of who we have here with us this evening. We would love to hear from all of you. So please feel free to introduce yourself. We are excited to get an idea of who we have here with us this evening. I saw in the registrations for the event this evening many parents and many students and many teachers interested in how Model UN can help them. Welcome, everyone. I see parents from Memphis, from Florida, parents who are really looking for information around the benefits for college. Absolutely, that's something we'll be talking a lot about. I see lots of different parents chiming in from around the US and students as well from Florida and Canada and teachers from Saudi Arabia and around the world interested in the college admissions process in the US and internationally. Very cool. We are excited to have all of you here with us today, parents and students alike, and we are looking forward to answering all of your questions. And without further ado, I'd love to also introduce you to our esteemed co-host tonight, who's going to be sharing her expertise with everyone as well. So Sheila, would you mind kicking it off and introducing yourself to everybody?
Sure. Thank you so much, Laura Beth. And thank you everybody for joining us. It's lovely to have an active chat. When we're in, this Zoom world, we don't get to see your faces, but having an active chat always gives me a little burst of energy and helps me know who I'm talking to. So I'm glad we're starting off with that. I see some familiar names in the chat as well. So that's awesome. So I'm Sheila. I'm the president and COO of a company called Signet Education. We do tutoring, test prep, executive function coaching, and what you're here to hear me talk about tonight, college admissions coaching. So I am an internationally recognized expert in all of those areas. I like to say standardized testing, college admissions, and mentorship particularly I'm super passionate about. I went to Harvard for my undergrad and my master's, and then I did 2 PhDs at Indiana. I'm a little bit of an underachiever, as you can see. And my experience of education I think has really informed the way I work with students and the way I work with their parents. My parents were immigrants. They had no idea what the US college process was about. So my brother and I really had to figure it out on our own. And that experience, coupled with my 15 years in working with families across the spectrum, has really shaped kind of what I'm going to share with you tonight.
Thank you so much, Sheila. We are so excited to have you here with us today and to have people both that have worked with Signet Education before as well as with Best Delegates so we can share our expertise with everyone. And a little bit about me. My name is Laurabeth Goldsmith, and I'm the Executive Director of Partnerships at Best Delegate Model UN, which basically means I have the awesome job of getting to work with all of our students, teachers, parents, school districts, governments, and even the United Nations that we partner with to help students learn about Model United Nations, to help them gain confidence and public speaking skills, and to really help them become more well-rounded and excited about being able to express their opinions. Like Sheila, I'm also an expert in my field. I've had the opportunity to present at the United Nations, to work with governments and ministries of education, to work with school districts in the United States and around the world. And I'm really passionate about Model UN. I started doing it as a high school student, and in fact, Model UN helped me decide where I was going to go to college because on one of my college visits to Emory University, I really saw my fit. And I stayed with the president of the Emory MUN team at the time and just got a really good sense of the community and the people, and I found my path. I went to undergrad at Emory University and I did my master's at Harvard University. And I'm also very passionate about education and Model UN. I've had the amazing opportunity to travel around the world to more than 65 different countries and to all 7 continents and to work with incredible students and parents who are really passionate about understanding global issues. So I'm really excited to be with all of you this evening. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Bestel, we are the world's leading experts at Model United Nations. And we run a online resource website that provides resources for people to learn how to do Model UN. And they've been viewed over 10 million times and used by people in all 193 member states. We've had people from more than 100 different countries come and participate in our programs. We run camps and conferences and private tutoring for Model UN and a variety of different programs. And we also run our camps and our summer programs are really highly rated, both by the students that do them, the parents that have their students participate, and by the teachers that go through our teacher training. So at Best Delegate, we're passionate about Model UN and helping bring out the best in your students. And we find that Model UN is a really amazing vehicle for students to get to learn and develop their own path and their own confidence along the way. So, this evening, we are really excited to talk with you about a number of topics. Sheila is going to kick it off and share her expertise on the college process and what top colleges are looking for. She's also going to speak with everybody about discovering your own path to college and what that means for you personally. And her and I will both talk about how Model UN can help you stand out. And I'll share some example stories and essays, as well as how students can use Model UN in every year throughout high school so that they can really build a well rounded story for their Model UN expertise. And then at the end, we will have plenty of time for question and answer to answer all of your questions, including the first one I see in the chat. We will absolutely be recording this event, and it will also be out on our YouTube channel as well for everybody after the fact. And with that, I'm excited for us to jump right into the college process. So I'll turn things over to Sheila to share a little bit more.
Thanks, Laurabeth. So the question I get over and over again is like, what matters in college admissions? What do we need to do? Did we miss something already? And first thing I want to say is you haven't missed anything yet. I mean, unless your student is actually graduating high school and you haven't thought about what comes next, then maybe you're a little behind. But even if your student is a junior, there is still plenty of time to do all of the things that you need to do. So I like to think about this as a pyramid. Most people, when they think about applying to college, they only think about what I've got here as the top of this pyramid, stage 3, which is writing the essays and hitting submit. But there's so much that goes on before that to get you to a place where you have this really compelling profile and you're applying to the right colleges for you. So I like to start with the first phase, the base of our pyramid here, building your candidacy. This really starts the first day of high school. Some people might even start before high school. I like to not stress people out, thinking about how everything that you do in high school is represented on the college application. High school is really when you need to start being intentional about how you spend your time, which classes you take, what you do outside of school, what kind of relationships you're building with teachers. And the things we want you to be doing in those first couple of years of high school, maybe freshman and sophomore year, is building your foundational academic skills and habits. As you'll see in my next slide, academics is absolutely the number one thing that colleges are considering. So it's really important that you have a solid foundation there. We also want students to start exploring their interests, not necessarily saying, I'm definitely going in this path or I'm definitely going in that path, but trying a bunch of things, reflecting on it, and seeing where you want to deepen your involvement. And then I think it's really important for every student to have mentors, to have a community of mentors, really. So we like to start building that early in high school, getting them used to asking for help, seeking advice, learning from other people. Mentors can even be peers. And then, of course, planning out what does the rest of high school look like in terms of my classes, my extracurriculars, and my summers, which are really great opportunities, as I'm sure Laurabeth will talk about, an opportunity to do something in a more sort of sustained, intensive way, get deeper exposure to things that you might be interested in. After the building candidacy phase, and it's not really after, these things are kind of all happening at the same time, but there'll be a shift in your emphasis. After you've sort of built your candidacy in 9th and 10th grade, you're going to move into this preparing to apply phase, which is usually for the students that I coach, usually in junior year. We're thinking about standardized testing. Of course, testing is optional at the vast majority of colleges, but there are some colleges that do require it. If your student can get a strong test score in relation to the average score at the schools that they're applying to, that score will likely help them in the process. So you want to investigate whether testing is going to be part of your application package or not, starting sometime in junior year. You also want to start building your college list. Now, this itself is its own involved process. I could draw you another pyramid, but that's really got to come out of a student's deep knowledge of who they are, what their strengths are, how they like to learn, who they want to be around and learn from, so that they can choose the colleges that are a good fit for their goals. And then you put a college list together of maybe 10 to 15 schools that you are, targeting. And then you also want to develop a strategic narrative. Now, this isn't your essay topic. This is the whole story that your application tells. What is the story of your high school career and who you are as a person and who you want to be and how college fits into that? Thinking about that broader vision for where you want to go and what has led you to those desires will help you understand how to use the various pieces of the college application to tell that story effectively. And then finally, after all of that, we move into crafting applications. For my students, this typically happens at the end of junior year over the summer before senior year. We are finalizing our college list and deciding where we're going to apply early action, early decision. There are a couple of options in there. They're developing all of their materials, whether that's an activity list, a resume, the essays. There's a main college essay, there are supplemental essays, there's a lot that's involved there. Getting their recommendations together, collecting all of the materials and documents that they're going to need to submit, and then finally they're going to submit. But you see that stage 3 is really documentation of everything that happened in stage 1 and stage 2. So you can't just jump into 3. You really want to be intentional and start from the foundations and build up from there. Can we go to the next slide? So that's what you have to do to apply to college, but that's different from what colleges are selecting for when you submit that application. So the National Association of College Admissions Counselors, or NACAC for short, which is an industry group that we're a member of, most of the colleges in the United States are a member of, they do a survey every year where they look at, or they ask the colleges, what are you considering when you're looking at an application, and what are the most important pieces of the application? Now, every college does this a little bit differently, and you're never going to get down to a formula where grades count for this percent, essays count for that percent. So I know a lot of us wish there was a formula or a template that we could just do, but it is still a little bit of a mystery. But I can give you some guidance. These 4 things have been at the top of that list for as long as NACAC has been doing this survey. And they're not surprises, right? We know grades really matter. We know the essays matter. It tells us who you are and helps us understand the story behind the grades or what classes you took. There are also test scores. Obviously, they're not required anymore. So these have dropped in importance at certain colleges. But like I said, if you can score well, they will still play an important role in your application. And then there's leadership. Now, before I tell you the surprise thing that you probably didn't realize colleges were looking at, I want to go back into grades a little bit, because we spend a lot of time thinking about, okay, what are all the ways I can strategize about standing out at college? But that's all great. And yes, if you're aiming for the most selective colleges, that may be where your focus needs to be. But those are nothing without the academics. So when I say grades here, I'm actually collapsing 3 categories. One is your grades in your most advanced classes. 2 is your overall grades, your overall GPA for all 4 years of high school. And then 3 is the rigor of those classes you took. Right? Are you taking the hardest classes that are offered by your school? Are you taking hard classes and getting, B pluses and A minuses? Or are you taking easy classes and getting A pluses, right? Colleges separate out the rigor from the actual grade so they can understand what kind of work you're actually doing and what kind of rigor you could handle at the college level. So the top 3 things that matter in college admissions are actually different measures of academic skill. So I want to make sure that you understand, without that academic skill, a lot of this other stuff doesn't really matter. But once you've got that down, and of course, we can always improve at those things. Once you've got that down, these other things do start to matter. So when we're looking at top colleges, and I don't like to kind of rank colleges, but when we're looking at the most selective colleges, everyone you're competing against is going to have those grades. They're going to have taken the hardest classes. They're going to have done well in them. So now we look for distinguishing factors that set you apart from all of those people, right? How do you raise the bar? And Laura Beth, if you can hit the next slide here, the thing that you probably didn't realize that colleges are actually selecting for is character. On the survey, you can Google NACAC factors in college admissions, and you'll see it right after academics is positive character traits. This is one that has cropped up since the pandemic, and it's increasingly something that colleges are saying is really important. They're selecting for this, right? And so we'll talk about how you can build character a little bit through something like MUN. But when we're talking about positive character traits, we're talking about things like self-awareness. We're talking about things like kindness, pro-social characteristics like helping other people, compassion, engagement in your community. We're talking about perseverance and grit. We're talking about personal growth, right? And I love this because high school, we often think high school is just about getting the grades and getting through high school and let's move on. But I believe high school is a great place to practice becoming who you're going to be as an adult. And I know that may sound a little floofy, but the more students can look within, discover who they are, and build upon their true, authentic selves and interests, the stronger the college candidate they're going to be, right? Without having to do all this strategizing, just leaning into really being yourself and being the kind of person you want to be, showing up in the world the way you want the world to look is going to do wonders for your educational experience, for your community, and also for your college application. So I want to stress that a lot. We'll come back to this point. Let's go to the next slide. So those are the things that you need to do. Then there were the things that colleges are selecting for, but how do we piece all these things together? So at Signet Education, we take students through this path to help them discover who they are, set meaningful goals, explore interests and career paths, practice making those sort of adult decisions in a safe environment where there are no real consequences to them saying one day I want to be a doctor and the next day saying I want to be an engineer. We can try on those ideas together and look at, do the thought experiment of what would that look like? What would that mean for your classes for the rest of high school, your extracurriculars, the colleges you might go to, and whatever comes after. And trying those things on gives students a chance to, like I said, safely explore, their different interests and their different options without feeling like they have to commit to it or submit themselves to the judgment of their peers, the competition that's already cropping up in their schools, or commentary from their parents or other adults in their life that, may not be willing to do a thought experiment at the moment. Maybe a parent just really wants a decision. So this is a really helpful role for a mentor to play. And what you'll notice about each of the sort of stages here, it does take you from 9th, 10th, 11th to 12th grade, is that we're integrating the college milestones with frameworks for reflection. So this is something that anybody can take and apply to their lives, whatever their path may be, whatever their strengths or goals or values may be. And it will help them, stay accountable to the process, but of course, take advantage of the educational opportunities that are right in front of them as well. So I encourage you to discover your path, what that might look like using a framework like this. And, you'll get the recording and the slides. Of course, always feel free to reach out to me for clarification on this, because I know it's easy for me to say, oh, here's a framework. And it's a totally different story to implement it with your child or implement it in a classroom. So let's go to the next slide here. Let's see what I have next. Okay. I'll let you talk for a second, Laurabeth.
Absolutely. So, one of the key things is how does Model UN fit into that journey or even extracurriculars? And for those of you who are less familiar, I really want to give you a basic understanding of how this activity works. And in Model UN, students have the chance to step into the shoes of world leaders and learn about the issues facing different countries and really how to solve them. And along the way, students have the opportunity to learn to navigate the world and learn important skills in public speaking, in diplomacy, in teamwork, in problem solving, in leadership, and in advocacy. So it's an amazing vehicle for students to learn about the world and about themselves and gain confidence and engage with high performing peers who really care about the world in a meaningful way. So it's a very fun and engaging activity that is great, especially for academic and nerdy kids that love to learn and love to be able to talk about what's happening in the world. So happy to insert that, Sheila, just to share with everyone how Model UN as an extracurricular can fit into that picture as well.
Thank you. So how can something like MUN help you stand out? Or specifically, how can Model UN help you stand out? I'm sure Laurabeth, you'll have some things to add here. But I've picked out four key kind of buckets that I have seen Model UN have an impact on students in. So in terms of skills, because of the kind of day-to-day actual exercises of the Model UN program, students are going to get better at analytical writing, at research, at public speaking. They're going to expand their political and global awareness. They're going to build critical thinking skills and, of course, leadership skills, because a lot of stuff happens in a committee. Many students go on to organize MUN conferences, and that, of course, is a huge exercise in leadership. So there's some solid, tangible skill development that comes out of engaging in an activity like this. And of course, I just talked to you a lot about character. There are so many opportunities for character development when you are going head to head with another country, or whether you're working with your own committee on more of like a team kind of platform. There is a lot of opportunity for situations to arise where you have to think about, well, who do I want to be in this moment? How am I going to handle this conflict, or how am I going to lead this team to achieve our goals? There's a lot of compromise. There's a lot of perspective taking, which is actually something a lot of colleges are asking about these days. When you've had I'll phrase it not exactly the way the question comes up in the college application, but many schools are asking, tell us about a time you had a disagreement with somebody. Actually, I think it's Georgetown. I may be wrong about this. Asks, who's your favorite partner to argue with and why? And so this exercise in perspective taking on someone else's perspective and trying to meet them somewhere, build some understanding, even though you're coming from totally different angles, is really, really important to the colleges these days. And of course, there's a whole bunch of dedication and resolve and diligence that comes out of doing this kind of activity year in, year out. Obviously, you can write a college essay about any of those things. And I want to stress that college essays are really not a place to just rehash, oh, I did this, I did that, I achieved this. It's really a place to tell stories about how you grew. And the places that teenagers grow are when they're doing interesting things with interesting people. And so if they have an interest in politics, in global affairs, even just in public speaking or even debate, this can be a really great place for those experiences to happen and to get some of this growth and some of these stories out of it. And then finally, this is probably the most obvious one. This is something you can list on your resume or your activity list, not just because it's going to look good for college, but because of all these other reasons that we talked about, the way it helps a student grow. And colleges love to look at a resume or an activity list as sort of shorthand for how do you choose to spend your time outside of school? And it shows them what you truly care about and what's important to you. It demonstrates your values to them without you having to say it. So you think intentionally about where you spend your time. Something like Model UN can tell a lot to a college admissions officer because they know all of this great stuff that goes on at these MUN conferences and clubs. Go ahead.
And for all of you who are wondering, how do I really integrate this into my college experience and really tell the story of all 4 years of school? We've put together an awesome ebook. It's free. You can download it. There's a QR code right here. And we just recently updated it on why and how you can use Model UN to help you or your child get into college. And we also break down the checklist year by year of how you can go through that path to college with a Model UN specific lens. In it, we also do give some examples of essays and of resumes and of different ways in which you can integrate this. And I'll also have my colleague Tony drop the link in the chat for everybody as well to be able to get a copy of that college ebook. And specifically, one of the resources in there that I think is really helpful is a year by year checklist for students to go through high school and how they should be thinking about Model UN as part of that path. And really, each year there's a different thing that students can and should be thinking about this. Of course, this can start in middle school and even elementary school. We have many students that start Model UN at a younger age. But leading up to high school and in that freshman year, it's really about developing your passion and really your passion for Model UN, your passion for international relations, and building strong fundamental skills in Model UN and leadership that allow you to show off your passion when you do ultimately apply to your best fit colleges. And some of the things you might want to think about, potentially in the fall of your freshman year, joining a high school MUN team or club at your school. If there's not one, starting one and or joining a Best Delegate MUN club. We have programs that meet every other week where you can join other students from around the country and the world who care about global issues. And in that fall semester, you're really going to want to be focused on those basics, learning all the public speaking skills and research skills and debate skills. You'll want to likely attend your first Model UN training conference and try a mix of virtual and in-person conferences where you can start to get feedback from your teammates as well as your chairs or the people that are running these simulations for you. And you'll want to start to learn more about the potential club leadership opportunities that exist as well. Typically, most schools have the chance to participate in multiple conferences throughout the year. So, in that spring time frame, you might want to look at attending one or two more novice or regional Model UN conferences. And you might be trying to win your first award. Model UN is not all about awards, but it is something that can help differentiate you as well in the process, along with leadership opportunities. And during this time, you'll also want to start to look at more advanced conferences that you might want to join next year. Some clubs let freshmen join at the big national conferences, and some have an opportunity where you have to prove yourself in those first few months or few conferences to be able to travel to some of the bigger Model UN conferences. And then I always encourage students that are passionate about Model UN to apply for a club leadership position for the following year. Typically, those elections happen at the end of the school year. And one way your students can differentiate themselves when applying for those positions is also by sharing that they will be attending the Model UN Institute. So we run in-person summer programs at top university campuses. This year we'll be out at Georgetown and UCLA and Boston University and Columbia and UC Berkeley and UC Irvine and Rutgers and UT Dallas and all over the country. And we also run virtual programs for students who want to take 5 days out of their summer to really enhance their skills and set themselves apart on their high school team to be able to take on more leadership roles and excel in this activity. So again, leading up to freshman year and that freshman year, it's all about developing your passion and starting to take on more roles. And then as you get into your sophomore year, you're really going to want to figure out, how do I start to stand out and differentiate myself among my peers? Because there are a lot of students that do Model UN. So just putting the line Model UN on your resume doesn't yet tell the unique story of your character or your leadership. So I would say that you want to start to figure out how to build your leadership resume within Model UN. And there are opportunities to serve as a committee chair and run simulations. There are opportunities to be part of your Model UN Club's leadership. There are opportunities to win awards. And all of these different accomplishments together can start to tell your story. And so, in that sophomore year, you're going to want to start to learn some of the more advanced skills around negotiation and public speaking style. You may also start to want to learn some of the harder formats of Model UN, including Security Council or crisis style simulations, which are super fun and challenging for students to engage in a fast paced scenario. You'll also want to attend more regional and advanced conferences and really continue to start taking on the opportunities to win awards and differentiate yourself, and prepare, if your club has one, to help run your club's conference. Typically, high schools put on a conference for other high schools in the area or for middle schools in the area. And if your school has one, this is a great way to get a leadership experience leading your peers and other students. And if they don't, we can absolutely help you to learn how to put one on at your high school as well. And in the spring semester, this might be a great opportunity to continue to attend conferences, to build those advanced skills in social dynamics, in strategic note passing and creation, and really learn about more advanced opportunities in Model UN. And again, at the end of the year, you'll want to consider running for more advanced leadership positions for that following year. Typically, clubs have opportunities to be a club president, to be a secretary general of a conference, to be a variety of different club roles that can help yourself and those leadership skills. Also, like I mentioned, want to consider what role you might want to take on at your school's conference, as well as at conferences that you're attending. In the summer, again, I'd consider joining us at the MUN Institute. We have many kids that come back year after year to continue building their skills and take on new opportunities. We have advanced programs, both in person and online. Our advanced program or our crisis program are likely the best fit for sophomores and juniors looking to differentiate themselves and really start to stand out from their peers in a meaningful way. And then when you get to junior year, this is really when you're really going to want to start to find your voice and reflect on your journey. Like Sheila shared, you don't want to wait until the middle of senior year to start working on those college apps. You really want to start reflecting on your Model UN journey and funneling your passion for MUN into concrete accomplishments and really clear skills. And one thing that you might want to do is start to record your favorite experiences and memories throughout the year to think about the potential anecdotes in your college essay. It's often hard when you sit down in front of that prompt and a blank piece of paper to get started. But if you have a journal or a list of reflections that you jot down over the course of your time in high school, especially when you had a really cool experience at a Model UN conference that you can reflect back on and share, that's often something that makes it a lot easier when you go to start that process. So again, junior year, you're going to want to do a variety of things like attending advanced MUN conferences. You're going to want to take on leadership roles in your club, whether that's a vice president role or a president role or something else that you're interested in. You'll want to start to prepare as a chair to host simulations, both for your school and for other schools. You'll start to also want to research colleges with top MUN and international relations programs if that's something you're interested about. And you'll also want to attend some national conferences to continue to engage with other people from around the world. And one thing that I think is particularly fun is if you're interested in going to a college and you can attend an MUN simulation on that campus, you can often check off a college visit and a conference at the same time, which is a great, opportunity when trying to fit all of that in your busy high school session. In spring, again, you'll want to continue to have those leadership opportunities as well as those award winning opportunities and start reflecting on that personal journey. And you also might want to take the opportunity in summer to attend a program and continue building some of those skills and refining, especially the leadership skills in your Model UN journey. And then come senior year, this is really when you are starting to prepare yourself for college. It's application time, and I know that's top of mind for many seniors. And you want to take everything that you learned and use it to craft your personal story and your applications and your essays. And you'll want to weave Model UN in throughout that process. You'll want to share about it in your essays, in your extracurriculars and awards, in your interviews, and in your recommendations, because if you can tell that coherent story, it can really help you. So again, in the fall, you'll likely want to have leadership positions in your own club. You'll want to start to plan conferences and take on your thinking about how you're going to tell the story of Model UN in your college applications. And you may want to ultimately ask your Model UN advisor, who ideally is also one of your teachers, for a potential letter of recommendation as a potential source for your college applications. And then again, you'll want to just continue to reflect on those experiences. There's also opportunities with Best Delegate to take on internships and to also have the chance to do positions with us throughout high school and going into college. So, the journey through high school, there's different ways that you can engage both on the leadership side of your club, the leadership side of potential conferences, and competing at conferences. There's definitely a variety of ways that you can help to set yourself apart. And I just want to share one story for you. I know the essays is always a great question that we get, and I want to share about Ryan, who is one of the co-founders of Best Delegate and a great friend. And he went to Yale University. And he was very into Model UN all throughout his high school experience. And when it came time to do his college application essay, he described how much he loved to sing as a child. But when he became a teenager, how his voice changed and his singing became strained, and he lost his joy in that activity. And then he was introduced to Model UN, and it helped him to develop his communication skills and confidence to speak. And he started to win awards, run conferences, and compete for public speaking scholarships. And ultimately, he gave up music for MUN. And he realized that both of these activities were his form of self expression, and ultimately wrote his college applications that helped him get into a number of amazing schools on finding his voice. And Ryan is one of thousands of students that have really effectively had the opportunity to share their Model UN story in a unique light that tells you something about them as well. So those are a few of the pathways that both Sheila and I have shared in general on the college application path, and then in Model UN specifically. And now I'd really like to turn it over to many of your questions so we can help all of you really have even more clarity around this process. So I'll stop sharing my screen and take on your questions. Please feel free to drop them in the chat or in the Q&A as well, and we can get through a number of these. I see a great question. Um, how can Model UN help, or how can international students approach the process of getting into US colleges as well? Sheila, I don't know if you have any advice on that question for international students looking at the US college system as well.
I do. Yeah. Thank you for the question, by the way. So international students fall under the same sort of rubrics that American students do. So it's not like you have to do anything different. The thing to keep in mind, though, is that every college is going to be evaluating your application in the context of the school and community from which you came. So if your school, I know this is true of a lot of schools abroad, they don't have all the sports teams that American schools have, or all of the clubs, or, community service may not be built in the way it is at certain schools in the US. Um, and college admissions officers will know that based on the information that your school will make public to them about what's available and what kind of involvement students typically have. You can also provide that context in your application so that they know, what's really available to you and what you've gone out of your way to do. And so it's basically the same framework. It's just about informing them of the context that you're coming from.
Absolutely. I see another question from Anna. Do you have any tips for starting your own conference in high school, your own Model UN conference? And specifically, she asked, would you start with one committee and make one general background guide, or how would you approach that? So, great question. High school Model UN conferences can vary tremendously in size from 30 or 50 kids all the way up to 1,000 kids. Many of the conferences hosted by high schools on the West Coast have 1,000 plus students attending their one-day local conferences. So in your first year, you want to keep it easy, one or two or max three committees where you're trying to get 30 to 90 kids attending and you're running a couple different rooms. You can run the same topic in multiple committee rooms to keep it simple for your school as you're getting started. But my biggest advice is speak to the other schools in your area. Make sure you understand the dates they'd be interested in, the topics that they'd be interested in, and get their buy-in from the start to make sure that you're going to have a successful recruitment process for that initial conference. So great question, Anna. I see another question from Talia. Um, Going back, Sheila, to what you were sharing about how grades are one of the most important elements. Could you please answer, is it better to take an unweighted class you're really interested in, or to take an AP class that you're interested in, but not quite as much?
That's a great question. I was just starting to type out a really overly complicated reply, so I'm glad we're doing it live. It's hard to give you a straight answer because every student is going to be a little different, right? It really depends on the goals that you have for your education, what you're trying to do in college, if you know yet, or what you might want to do after college. I typically say, do the thing that you're most interested in. That's going to give you energy. You're going to do really well in it. And it's going to show colleges what you actually care about. At the same time, that has to be balanced, because if you can handle the rigor of, let's say, an AP class or the IB curriculum, you want to show them that you can handle that rigor as well. And there may be another way outside of school to pursue the thing that you're interested in, right? We live in a world now where we have Coursera and, MITx and edX and, all of these online courses that you can take to further your interest in a particular subject. So you really got to balance all of those things. At the same time, if you're already taking a bunch of really hard classes and this is like your one elective, just do the thing that you love. That's never going to be a bad idea. I hope that helps.
Thanks, Sheila. I see a number of questions that really boil down to students being a little bit stressed about their GPA and what is good enough to be able to get into many of these top colleges that students are interested in. And I'm curious if you can talk a little bit about, what some of those thresholds might look like. And also, if you are well balanced in leadership positions, athletics, Model UN, advanced classes, and other elements, what does that complete package need to look like other than just a 4.0 GPA?
Yeah, I mean, again, a great question. You're going to get tired of hearing this from me, but it depends. It depends on you, the student, it depends on the school you go to, and it depends on the colleges that you're looking at. So, one person's definition of a top college may be totally different from another's, just depending on what they want to study. I run into students all the time who say, "Oh, I want to study business and I want to go to Harvard." They don't realize you cannot study business at Harvard. There is no undergraduate business concentration. I went to Harvard. We had to go to MIT to take accounting, right? So you've got to understand what you're applying for and why you want it, right? A 3.7 GPA, for example, doesn't tell me a lot. I don't know how hard the classes you took were. I don't know what your high school offers. And if you took the hardest of all of them and got a 3.7, or if you took the easiest of all of them and got a 3.7, right? So it's always about the bigger picture. Colleges use what's called a holistic method of reading applications. And it's not to say that extremely impressive leadership in one area can outweigh grades, but in some cases it can, right? Colleges are looking to put together a talented group of students for their class, and every college has their own priorities. If any of you have followed me or talked to me before, you know that I'm really kind of obsessed with the idea of institutional priorities, because that's the thing that people are not usually considering when they're choosing colleges. Some colleges want more artists, some colleges want more English majors, some colleges do not want any more CS majors, right? So you really have to understand, where is the college trying to grow and invest? Are they building a reputation in an area? Are they trying to balance something out because they want to expand their offerings? So again, I can't give you an answer to that. If we want to get tactical about how you can improve your GPA, put more time into your academics, learn how to study, learn how to manage your time, get help from a teacher, a mentor, a tutor, your peers, whatever it might take. You can also take classes over the summer, whether that's at a local community college or online, or some high schools even offer summer classes. And those are things that can boost your GPA and also show that you're a dedicated student.
Absolutely. One more question on the note of grades from a teacher this time. A teacher asked, I have lots of points oriented type A students, and especially seventh and eighth graders, and they get stressed about one poor grade or a missed event. In middle school, is that a big deal for students to fail forward? And can you give any context for what middle school parents should be thinking about on this journey as well?
I love this question. I also hate that this is happening and that you have to ask the question. It says something about our priorities in our society. But I won't go on that soapbox right now. Grades in middle school do not matter. They may matter if you're applying into independent high schools and they want to look at your transcript. But in terms of college, it does not matter. There is no place to indicate middle school grades on a college application. What those grades do indicate is that a student may need to work on building their academic skills before they get to high school. So that's actually a really great indication that students need to work on something, need to learn how to study, need to learn how to memorize, need to learn how to do practice problems, or whatever it may be, to help them achieve better scores on these tests. It might also say something about, they're not a great test taker, and there are test taking skills and ways that you can practice that. But yeah, it does not matter for middle school students. Even in high school, one bad test is not going to throw you off. I know it can really feel like it's the end of the world. I'll tell you a personal story. At the start of my senior year, Actually, it was over the summer before my senior year. I was applying to colleges. I had a 4.0 and I was like so excited about it. And I was at the school because I was involved in student government. And my physics teacher came out and was like, I need to talk to you. And it turns out I got a D on my physics final. Now, this is unheard of in my family. Has never happened before and never happened since. And I was devastated. I was literally crying. I was in tears. But my overall grade became a B plus because I had been, a very strong student. And it had a minuscule effect on my GPA. And, because I continued to work hard at everything else, it didn't derail me. And of course, I still had a lot of academic success. So I know it feels like for teenagers, it really feels like the end of the world, but I promise you it's not.
Thank you, Sheila.
Mhm.
I see a couple of questions from Kirti and Anna and others about taking on leadership roles with Best Delegate and leadership roles outside of their own school as well. Some have shared how sometimes it's hard to get leadership roles in their own school because they're so competitive, and some have shared how they're looking for more national, leadership and internship opportunities as well. So I'll share one of the best ways to do that with Best Delegate is by joining our Best Delegate Model UN Club. It's other high performing, excited students from around the country that meet every other week. It's a drop in program for students, and they get mentored by top Model UNers from top programs in the country. And through this program, they get the chance to compete, but also to be leaders and to chair our conferences. We run virtual conferences every month throughout the year, and students that take our club leadership, our club program, get to take on those chairing and those assistant chairing roles. They get to crisis staff and really learn how to help run Model UN programs. And I'll also share we have some amazing students that are helping us not just with Model UN content, but also with practical skills that help them in other ways. We have an amazing high school intern right now who's helping us with marketing elements. We have an amazing high schooler that's learning to be an expert in search engine optimization and is helping to revamp our website. And so he's getting to tell both the story of his Model UN passion and leadership, as well as the story of his computer science and technical interest through his internship experience with us as well. So I'll share that if your student is excited to really get involved in Model UN, there are definitely opportunities to do it at their own schools, and there are opportunities to do it Best Delegate as well. So I would encourage you to check that out. We do have club programs available for students as well in middle school. And we do also have those summer program opportunities for students as well that will really help jumpstart their Model UN learning. And I've seen a lot of parents, especially of eighth graders going into high school, that want their kids to be able to join the Model UN club or have kids who are interested in that. And attending one of those summer programs beforehand helps give their kids the confidence going into freshman year to really participate and engage in a really great way. And sometimes high schools have like a tryout or an audition to be able to attend and compete in some of those first conferences. And even colleges have that as well. So having attended one of those programs or having practiced in a meaningful way can help to differentiate you there as well. So great question. I also see a question, see a few more questions, just one moment. I'm going to see which ones we can pull in for everyone. Sheila, question for you. How can we take some of the stress out of the college application process for students and for parents?
That's a great question. I think focusing in on what you can control is really important because there's a lot of this process that you can't control. You can't control who's actually going to get in, what your result is going to be. What you can control is what you're learning, who you're learning with, and how much fun you're having, honestly. And I think that a lot of the time, I know my parents did this when I was growing up, and it's definitely a theme I see. We dismiss fun because we think, no, we've got to get on this college application process and you've got to be strategic and the competition is so tough. Yes, the competition is tough, but the way that we can withstand it, all of this pressure, is by having things that are meaningful to us that do not get evaluated, that do not count for college admission. So really need to make sure we build in that downtime for students where they can have, social time or just fun time without expectations on them. I think that's really, really important. The other piece of it is to know what to do when, right? I gave you this whole pyramid. And I know probably a lot of you either took a picture of it or tried to write everything down. You're thinking, okay, what's our plan for all of these things? I got to start writing down ideas for my college essays. You don't. right? Let's like take things one step at a time. There are things that are appropriate, not only because of the college process timeline, but also developmentally where your student is. There are certain things that you want to do first, and then second, and then third. And you as a parent can hold all of that timeline. Your student does not need to know it. Right. And I think the final thing I'll say is to really clarify the role of the parent in the admissions process versus the role of the student. Now, as a mother myself, I know I don't want to see my student struggle, my son struggle. I don't want him to have to do anything on his own, have to figure it out on his own. I just want to swoop in and do it for him because it'll be easier, it'll be faster, there'll be less drama. But in high school, especially towards the end of high school, as your kids are thinking about leaving home to go off to college, we need to prepare them with the skills to be able to do this stuff independently. And so now is a great time to practice letting them have some ownership and you taking a step back. That doesn't mean abandoning them. It means let's get clear about what a parent should be doing now and what a student should be doing now. And you, as a parent, can come to agreements with your student about what they would like help with, or they should ask you for help before you swoop in, or we look at what might need to be done in ninth grade or in 10th grade along the lines of the college admissions process and talk about setting up a time, maybe a monthly meeting where we check in on our college admissions goals. So it's not something that you're just always nagging about. There is a time and a place to discuss it, and everybody comes in with that expectation.
Absolutely. I see another great question for Nora. I was wondering how my child can start a Model UN club at their school. So, honestly, my first piece of advice would be to attend one of the Model UN Institute summer programs. You're going to get the opportunity to go through a lot of lessons that you can then turn around and teach to your own students that join your Model UN club. And I would also recommend checking out our Club Accelerator program. We have a program specifically designed to support students and teachers that are rolling out new Model UN programs where they'll get mentored by one of our Model UN experts, and they'll do a training session with your leadership team. Then they'll do a training session for all the students in the club, and they'll do a practice simulation to kind of help you launch your Model UN program and get it off the ground. So my biggest advice is don't be afraid to start a new Model UN program. Step one is getting MUN experience yourself. One of the best ways to do that is through a Best Delegate summer program or through attending your first conference as an independent delegate, and then really start to build that up and build up interest in your own school. And I see another question: how do we get people interested in Model UN if we are starting a program or if we're at a small school? Start with debates about topics that kids at your school care about. So think about what are the things that your school is focused on. Are they currently really upset about a new dress code or policy at school? Are they currently really upset about racial injustice in our country? What are the hot button issues on your campus? And run a debate on that topic and really start to get people talking and debating and practicing before you jump all the way into a full simulation on a very complex international relations topic. So gain excitement and interest and build that up slow. And we absolutely can help you with that. And I'll also share for those of you that you were asking questions about how can you help set yourself apart when you're trying to win awards or prepare to take on leadership roles. We do also offer tutoring, private coaching for students. And in those sessions, we can work with you to, create your opening speeches for conferences, to come up with ideas to really help you be prepared and confident, whether that's preparing for a conference, preparing to run for a leadership position in your club, or starting to work on your college essays. We've got mentors that can help you with the Model UN and Model UN elements to help you on that process. So, great questions there. And we've got time for one or two more questions. And then I'd love for Sheila and I to both share a little bit more about some opportunities and resources coming up. So, I think I see one or two more questions about organizing MUN conferences. I'll have Tony share a link in the chat. We've got a ton of great resource articles on bestdelegate.com, our resource website, on starting conferences and running simulations. But the real answer is start with a mini simulation or a practice simulation before you build up to a conference with multiple schools. And then I also see a great question. Um, when colleges invite high schoolers to participate in Model UN conferences, is that recommended or does that influence the admissions process? And I'll let Sheila share a little bit more from her perspective, but I don't think that attending their conference specifically is a huge differentiator. But if you can share how you would fit into that college and into what they're trying to build in their community, that can help differentiate you. So Sheila, feel free to share about any of the
Yeah.
college visits or those kinds of
Yeah,
opportunities for students as
I
well.
would echo that. The MUN conferences that happen on college campuses are usually not organized by the college administration themselves. They're organized by a club on the campus. So it's not like your student is going to get a leg up at Yale if they went to the Yale MUN conference. However, as Laurabeth said, maybe the student had an amazing experience interacting with some Yale undergrads and learned a lot more about, what it takes to succeed at Yale, or the kind of community that they have there, the kind of learners they are there, or got familiar with the campus, met a professor because they were on campus. There are a lot of really great interactions that can come out of it that might feed into an essay or something that demonstrates some interest in the college, and that may actually help with the admissions part of it.
Absolutely. So I think we've had the opportunity to answer a lot of the questions that have been shared with us, and we'll give you our contact information as well. So if you have specific questions for Sheila or for me, we'd be happy to follow up with those as well. And briefly, I just want to share a couple of the upcoming program and event opportunities with Best Delegate and give Sheila the opportunity to share a little bit more about how you can get in touch with Signet as well. And specifically, I want to start with summertime. For those of you who might be interested in jumpstarting your Model UN journey, there are opportunities to do that virtually and in person. Virtually, we run programs throughout July for elementary students, middle school students, and high school students. And we have opportunities for students at all different experience levels to hone their skills and take them to the same next level. And we also offer private coaching and tutoring during the summer as well for students to get personalized feedback from mentors to really enhance their skills and their learning. Virtually, these are 5-day programs that are 3 hours a day online. They're super fun and interactive, and there's students from all around the world that join in on these sessions. So they're a lot of fun. And I'll also share, if you're interested in an in person program, we offer a ton of fun in person programming opportunities as well at Georgetown, Columbia, Boston University, UT Dallas, UCLA, UC Berkeley, UC Irvine, Rutgers, and more. So I'd encourage you to check out some of those opportunities. And I'll also turn it over to Sheila to share just a little bit more, and we'll put both of our contact information in the chat as well, because we would love to stay in touch with everyone and to be able to help you all on your journeys.
Absolutely. Thank you, Laura Beth. So everything we do at Signet is one-on-one. So it's not like we have, a specific program that runs from this date or to that date. But if what I've shared with you here resonates with you in terms of the approach that we take to college admissions mentoring, it also extends to the tutoring, the test prep, the executive function coaching that we do. If it resonates with you, I encourage you to drop us a line. You'll get my email in just a moment. You can follow me on LinkedIn, or follow the Signet YouTube or Instagram or Facebook, or any of our socials to learn more about the free events that we also do, diving more deeply into how to build a college list, how to develop character, how to strengthen executive functions, whether you're neurodiverse or neurotypical. And these are all really helpful tools and tips. And there's always a free resource that we give away that you can walk away with and start implementing right away.
Thank you, Sheila. I think that's very helpful for everyone. And let me go ahead and share our contact with everyone. Just one moment. So we'll give you Sheila's contact information as well as mine. Everyone, please feel free to reach out if you have any questions about Model UN. Our email is support@Best Delegate, and our phone number is here as well. And my fabulous colleague, Tony, does our sessions. So if you have a question and you want to schedule an info call with one of our mentors, we can help you get a better understanding of Model UN and how it could fit into your student's journey, and answer questions about any of our summer programs, any of our school year clubs, any of our private tutoring, workshops, conferences, or other opportunities to get involved. And Sheila, we also have your contact information up here as well for everyone. And we'll also send out a follow-up email and the recording of this event to everyone as well who was registered, so that all of you have our information at your fingertips as well. And with that, I truly just want to say thank you to everyone. We'll all stick around for another minute or two and Sheila to answer a few more questions in the chat, but we really appreciate so many of you taking time out of your busy schedules to stop in and talk with us about college and about Model UN. I know it can sometimes be a challenging and overwhelming and exciting topic, but we really want you to follow your passions, whether that be Model UN or other extracurriculars, to help you on your path to college and ultimately career and life success. So thank you for joining us tonight, and we really appreciate it. And don't be afraid to reach out to us with any additional questions you might have.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Laura Beth, for having me.
Thank you. Have a great night, everyone.